The Nobel Prize in Literature was awarded for the first time in 1901. While everyone expected Tolstoy or Henrik Ibsen to win, the honor went not to a literary figure, but to a philosopher whose ideas shook the world. But why? What work could be so remarkable? And why did this decision spark such controversy? This was more than just an award. It became a turning point that made people question the very nature of literature. If you're ready, let's take a closer look at history's first literary Nobel together. Welcome to the sacred temple of literature. Today, we embark on a journey through the shadows of quills, a journey that pauses when the calendars turn to 1901, when the first torch of the Nobel Prize in Literature was lit. That torch blazed in the hands of a poet, Sully Prudhomme. This silent storm rising from French soil seeped into the soul's most hidden corners. He rendered love as fragile as a teardrop, death as naive as an autumn leaf. But what words carried this delicate pen to the pinnacle of history? Could his verses hold truths you've yet to give voice to? Born in Paris in 1839, René François Armand, Sully Prudhomme had never planned to enter the literary world. In his youth, he aspired to study engineering, but life had a different plan for him: poetry. What truly set him apart from other poets wasn't just emotional writing. He was a thinker who seamlessly wove science and philosophy into his verse. His poetry explored profound themes of love, human nature, and existential questions. Now, let us turn together to the pivotal work that etched his name in literary history. The 1865 publication of Stances et Poems didn't just make Prudhomme famous in France, it catapulted him to global recognition. This work wasn't merely a poetry collection, it was nothing short of a literary revolution. So why was this work so extraordinary? A perfect marriage of heart and mind, his verses replaced simple romantic melancholy with scientific precision and philosophical depth. Sculpted to artistic perfection, each line was crafted with the meticulous care of a master sculptor chiseling marble. Breathtaking imagery, his poems didn't just convey meaning, they painted emotions and etched visions in the reader's soul. Consider his masterpiece Le Vase Brise, The Broken Vase. Le vase où meurt cette verveine, d'un coup d'éventail fut fêlé, le coup d'une effleurée à peine, pas un bruit ne l'a révélé. This vase, while the verbena wilted within, cracked at a fan's faintest touch. So light was the blow that not a sound was heard. Here, the fractured vase becomes a poignant symbol of shattered hearts. Each line detonates with raw emotion while simultaneously compelling contemplation. This was Prudhomme's alchemy of words. Yet his journey to the Nobel Prize was paved with more than this single gem. The 1901 Nobel Prize in Literature didn't just crown Prudhomme, it crowned poetry itself. While critics clamored for Tolstoy, the committee made history. They declared verse as vital as prose. 1 century later, doesn't a single stanza still silence the debate? Sully Prudhomme, the poet who worshipped science and reason. He was a literary figure who adored science and logic, a poet whose verses were as philosophical as they were emotional. For him, art was not merely about feeling, it was about thinking, weighing, and measuring. So why Prudhomme over Tolstoy? Because the Nobel Committee sought to honor literary works of idealistic tendency with its first award, and Prudhomme's poetry embodied that vision. He wrote not just with emotion, but with reason and morality. In his poems, the heart beat in rhythm with the mind. Yet this decision ignited immediate controversy. Alfred Nobel's will stipulated that the Literature Prize should go to the person who produced the most outstanding work of an idealistic tendency. Many contemporary writers and critics, however, found the choice overly academic and stiff. Awarding the Nobel to Prudhomme instead of a deeply influential writer like Tolstoy was seen as a politically safer choice, raising questions about whom the prize truly sought to celebrate. Some even argued that this marked a beginning where literature would drift away from the people. But let's not forget, Sully Prudhomme was one of France's most revered literary figures at the time. His selection signaled that Nobel literature would elevate not just stories, but ideas. Final answer? The Nobel didn't crown kings of bestseller lists, it crowned thinkers who wrestled with eternity. And that's why 1901's decision still splits the literary world in two. Sully Prudhomme's poetry endures as the perfect alchemy of emotion and intellect. Modern poets still draw inspiration from his linguistic mastery and philosophical depth. But where does his legacy thrive today? In literary circles, emerging poets emulate his artistic vision. His verses continue to articulate the human soul's emotional and intellectual odyssey. His philosophical lens illuminates the search for depth in contemporary literature. Now, we turn to you. Does poetry still hold its former power in our era? Or has time begun to erode its relevance? Is poetry immortal, or a fading art? Share your thoughts in the comments. Literature, a timeless art, and poetry, the purest mirror of the human soul. Sully Prudhomme's work teaches us that poetry is not merely emotional expression, it's also a vessel for intellectual discovery. But what role will poetry play in the future as technology reshapes storytelling? Will new generations still approach verse with the same passion? Perhaps one day, a new Nobel-winning poet will inherit Prudhomme's legacy, and perhaps that poet could be you. Now, we leave you with one final question. Should the first Nobel Prize in Literature have gone to Tolstoy or Henrik Ibsen instead? Share your verdict in the comments, and until next time, keep the literary flame alive.
Poète, René-François Sully Prudhomme, 1839 à 1907. Sonnet. À 20 ans, on a l'œil difficile et très fier. On ne regarde pas la première venue, mais la plus belle. Et, plein d'une extase ingénue, on prend pour de l'amour le désir né d'hier. Plus tard, quand on a fait l'apprentissage amer, le prestige insolent des grands yeux diminue. Et d'autres, d'une grâce autrefois méconnue, révèlent un trésor plus intime et plus cher. Mais on ne fait jamais que changer d'infortune. À l'âge où l'on croyait n'en pouvoir aimer qu'une, c'est par elle déjà qu'on a appris à souffrir. Puis, quand on reconnaît que plus d'une est charmante, on sent qu'il est trop tard pour choisir une amante, et que le cœur n'a plus la force de s'ouvrir. René-François Sully Prudhomme.